Welcome everyone to Midwest Tree ID. On this channel, it is my mission to help you learn an abundance of trees that grow right here in the Midwest, and some key features on how to identify them. There's just one thing to clarify before we begin. We're not going to be throwing hatred or ridiculing any of the species that we're going to be talking about. But we do, however, want to encourage thoughtful conversation in the comments about personal experiences and things like that. Please try to remember that everything has value and that we are here to enjoy nature and everything it has to offer. So without anything else, let's jump right in. Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're at my parents' house in Bloomington, Illinois, and we are taking a look at Cladrastis kentukea. This is the American Yellowwood, probably of among one of the finest somewhat native species, and I'll talk about why it's somewhat native in just a moment. But American Yellowwood is known for its pinnately compound leaves, with most of the leaflets being fairly ovate and somewhat rounded when you get to some of the older, more mature leaflets. But they're going to be very almost waxy, rubbery feeling, and a nice deep, rich green. And the flower, which I missed the flower, but we've got the seed heads the seed pods that are starting to come on. So the flowers themselves are going to be nice, white, dangling panicles. And they're going to be quite fragrant. They're going to have a little bit of a lilac sort of smell to them. So they're a really nice cascading flower effect. They're not always the most consistent flowering trees due to, they typically tend to bloom at a time where it can still be hit or miss as to whether or not we're going to get a late frost. If we get a late frost, it's probably going to zap those buds. But American Yellowwood this year has bloomed. Almost every one that I have seen has bloomed. And this is actually the first time that our tree here has actually flowered, and we were really quite excited to see that. So we'll be taking some seed in the fall and trying to get some new Yellowwoods in the nursery to germinate. So for now, let's go ahead and take a look at the bark and the habit. So American Yellowwood, this is obviously a rather young specimen, but the bark doesn't really change a whole lot. It will get a little bit more, have a little bit more exfoliation as the tree gets older, but for the most part, it's going to be kind of gray, and it's got a lot of these lichens on it, which is fine. That's nothing to fret about or worry about. Yeah, typically that's what you're going to kind of see. So the reason it's called Yellowwood, and I don't have any examples of that to show you, is because if you were to cut this bark, not the bark, the wood here would be very, very bright yellow. So yes, again, fairly young specimen, but you can see just how dense that is. That's going to provide a very nice shade, and you can just kind of picture it in your mind, the cascading bright white flowers hanging down off those branches. It's quite nice. It's not overly abundant typically, but it is kind of a nice effect. But these trees are typically going to have kind of an oval shaped, and they'll round out a lot more as it gets older. That's pretty typical. Sometimes they can have a little bit of a conical shape, but that's not very often. Yellowwood definitely can take on a few different shapes as it ages. So one of the reasons I said it's somewhat native is because this tree is native to the United States, but is not native to the vast majority of the Midwest. In fact, it only has a very, very small sliver of range that is native in the southernmost tip of Illinois, a little bit of Kentucky and Arkansas as well. So and it's very, very sliver. It's like, it's a very, very small, narrow stretch of native range. And so it technically is not native to central Illinois and the vast majority of the Midwest, but it is still frequently marketed in the nursery industry as a native tree. There's debate about whether or not that's really a good idea to market that as a native or not, but it's still a very nice tree to use in the landscape. It typically performs very well. There are some fungal problems that the tree can have, but it's nothing that is overly abundant to where we're seeing a major problem. And so I do have these coming up in the nursery right now, and they're nice and little. They're not overly vigorous seedlings. This tree is not one that you typically find self-seeding too often. You can maybe see it a little bit, but typically not too much. But I hope you like this one. That's pretty much going to wrap it up for the American Yellowwood. Thanks for joining me. Be sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.